Today I'll be giving you a complete guide to banking and investing in Dubai or the UAE more broadly. We'll go over various accounts that you need to open, credit card options, how to do investing, and then mistakes that you'll want to avoid that can save you a significant amount of money. I've been set up in Dubai now for over 6 months. A lot of this I had to learn the hard way. There's not very much information online, and hopefully this video will be a comprehensive overview that will teach you everything you need to know, so whether you're already set up there or you're looking to move there shortly, you'll have all the information and you can avoid all of the mistakes that I've already made. With that said, let's get started with the various bank accounts that you'll want to open. So once you get set up in the UAE and you have your Emirates ID, the first thing you'll want to do is open a bank account. Now the first bank account I recommend opening is a WEO personal account. Now this is an online bank. You can simply download the application from your phone, and as long as you have your Emirates ID, residency information, employment, a UAE phone number, you'll be able to open the account in just a few minutes and immediately have access to it. Now WEO is licensed by the Central Bank of the UAE. Although it is new, it is a legitimate bank. I've been using it now for 6 months. It's been great, and it has a lot of features that other banks don't have. For example, WEO actually has no fee on currency conversion. If you weren't aware, the dirham, which is the currency in the UAE, is actually pegged to the US dollar at 3.65. $1 is 3.65 dirhams, and WEO will give you that exact rate whenever you're doing any exchange of US dollars to dirham, which I actually have to do all the time. WEO also allows you to hold money in various currencies, so you can have a US dollar account, you can have a British pound account, you can have a euro account, which is really useful, especially if you're going to be sending money to the UAE in that currency, so that you don't need to pay large foreign transaction fees, which we'll talk about later on. Beyond that, WEO actually has a great 2% cashback credit card, which we'll talk about later, and it has a 5% flexible savings space. So you can actually put money in the savings account with WEO. It will automatically give you 5% per annum, and you can take money out whenever you want. There's no penalty, no fee, and you'll still accrue the interest on whatever balance is in there at the end of each day. Now, WEO also has a 5.5% fixed savings account, which is the same thing, except you're locking your money up for 3 to 6 months, and then you'll pay a small penalty on the interest amount if you want to take that out early on. So overall, WEO is really, really good. The only thing you need to know about it is that it does have some transaction limits. So for example, incoming transfers internationally, there's a 300,000 dirham daily limit. From locally, there's a 500,000 dirham daily limit. So be aware of that if you're going to be sending really large amounts, and make sure you contact WEO. You can go through WhatsApp. They actually have a support number if you're going to be sending a large amount of money, so they can update your account and actually allow that to go through. Now, after WEO, I would recommend trying to set up an Emirates NBD account. Now, this is a bit more of a serious bank in the UAE. It can be more difficult to open an account here, but you should be able to do so if you have the correct employment information. In my case, I was actually able to do this online, but you can go into an Emirates NBD branch and set up the account there. Now, this account has some features that the WEO account doesn't have. For example, its limits are much higher. There's no incoming limit, meaning if you're going to be transferring hundreds of thousands of dollars, you'd want to do it to the Emirates NBD account, not to the WEO account. The main disadvantage of Emirates NBD, though, is that they do not give you the exchange rate at the peg, meaning you will pay a currency conversion rate, which can actually be quite high, or a fee, if you are going to be converting US dollars to dirhams, and they don't allow you to hold money in different currencies. It also does not have great interest rates when it comes to saving spaces, but I use this mostly when I'm going to be doing very large transfers because I know it will actually go through. Now, with Emirates NBD, you also have option to go to the priority level. So you can just go with the normal bank account, which is totally fine, which most of you will be fine using. Or if you want priority level, which means you get a higher level of service, you get a few more features on the card, for example, no ATM charges when you actually go and take out cash, then you need to hold at least 500,000 dirhams with the bank, or have a salary of 50,000 dirhams per month hitting your account. Now, I have priority. I'll say that is very similar to the main service. You just get a different number you can call where it's a little bit faster. You have a relationship manager. If you're going to do some more serious things or invest with the bank, it's probably worth it. But yeah, that's the requirements for priority. Now, beyond those two personal accounts, you may need a business account. You can try to open a business account with Emirates NBD, but it can be very difficult to do that, and a lot of times they won't accept free zone companies. Same for a lot of other banks in the UAE. but you can open an account with the WEO business. Now, this is personally the one that I use. It's totally fine. It has much larger limits than the personal account, allows you to hold money in various currencies, and gives you no fee on exchanging US dollars to dirhams, which is something I need to do all of the time. WEO Business I was able to open in just 1 day, again on my phone using the online bank, so that's what I would recommend. WEO Personal, Emirates MBD Personal, and then your WEO Business. If you have all three of those, you're good to go, and you can handle really any situation when it comes to banking. So now we're moving on and talking about credit cards. Now the first thing you need to know is that if you have a credit score from a place like the US or Canada or some other country, that is not going to count or be worth anything in the UAE. That means when you move here, you should open a credit card right away so you can start building your history, and also just be aware that you're likely going to need to put a fixed deposit down. Now this is equivalent to a secured credit card. That pretty much means that in order to actually get a card, you're gonna have to put a certain amount of money away. This is a collateral for the company. In my case, I put 30,000 dirhams as collateral. That actually gets put into kind of a fixed saving space where you're earning a small amount of interest on it, and then 90% of that amount is actually the balance they'll give you on the card. So in my case, 30,000 dirhams, that means I have a 27,000 dirham credit card balance. So be aware of that when you move in. It can be a little bit expensive, and if you're gonna open multiple credit cards, you'll need multiple fixed deposit accounts. Usually the minimum is 30,000 dirhams if you're opening the higher level cards. Beyond that, let's go through a few different card options that you have. Keep in mind, credit cards here are not anywhere as good as they are in the US, and you're not gonna get the same perks and benefits as you would in a place like that. Okay, so the first card on my list is the Emirates MBD Skywards Infinite card. Now, personally, this is the one that I use for everything, even though it's not the most ideal compared to some of the other cards on the list. It's very expensive. It has a joining fee of 3,500 dirhams approximately, and then an annual fee, which is waived for the first year, of about 1,500 dirhams. Now this comes with up to 100,000 bonus miles or sign-up miles when you actually get the card, and all of these miles can be redeemed on Emirates. So for me, living in Dubai, especially when I'm flying back and forth to Canada, I can actually use the Emirates miles, and you will get 1 mile per $1 spent locally, and 2 miles per $1 spent internationally on this card. There's a few exceptions for things like food delivery, taxi services, where you get less than that, but overall, that's about what you're getting when you're spending money on the card. Beyond that, you also get double the amount of miles when you spend on the Emirates website, which is quite nice if you're spending a lot of money there, and you can get up to 100,000 miles as a bonus when you open the card if you hit these spending thresholds. Now the salary requirement for this card is 30,000 dirhams per month, but you also likely need to put that fixed deposit down, and it gives you a bunch of other benefits, for example, airport pickups, lounge access, and a lot of other things that you'd expect from kind of an elite travel card. You guys can look it up. Again, it's personally the one that I use, and I would recommend it to start out with, even though it is expensive. Now moving on, you could actually get an American Express card in the UAE. Now keep in mind, this is the UAE American Express company, so it's a completely different application process, probably a different application. Everything is different, and the cards are also different from what you'd be aware of in the US. They have the same signature cards like the Platinum card or the Gold card, but the benefits are a lot different, and personally, when I looked at them, I didn't think it was worth it compared to the fee that I was paying and the fact that I already had this Emirates MBD card. So you can check it out. Again, I don't have the card myself, but I do know that it is significantly different, and it does not give you the same level of benefits that you're used to from a US dollar card. Now moving on, another card you may be interested in opening is one that has a 0 foreign transaction fee. Now, when you spend money overseas or in a different currency on the card, you're gonna be paying a foreign transaction fee, and sometimes you'll be paying 2 of them. The first foreign transaction fee you can't really avoid. This is applied by Visa itself, and this is a 1% flat fee on whatever the purchase amount is. But a lot of cards also charge an additional 1.5%, 2%, depending on the card, a different fee on top of that, which can make the foreign transaction fee actually quite hefty, especially if you're purchasing something that's very expensive. Now, there are some cards in the UAE that have a 0 FX fee. What that means is that the bank itself does not charge an additional fee, so you're cutting the fee approximately in half. For example, there is an Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank Traveler card. This one is pretty good, that has a 0 foreign transaction fee, and that's likely what I'm going to be getting next, so that when I am overseas and in various countries, I can use that and avoid paying the fee that I currently have to pay on my Emirates MBD card. First Abu Dhabi Bank also has a Traveler card that has 0 foreign transaction fee, and you can look out for various different options. There's so many different cards, so I'm not going to go through all of them here, but you just want to look for a 0 FX fee. That's a good secondary credit card to have. So now let's talk about investing in the UAE. Now, as a UAE tax resident, you do not have access to a tax treaty with the United States. that means that you're going to have to pay a 30% withholdings tax on any dividends received from US stocks or US ETFs. So that means you'll want to be careful of the types of stocks or funds that you're buying to make sure that you're avoiding that 30% tax, which can really ruin your portfolio gains. Now, before we get into all of that, you do need a platform to be able to buy these different stocks or funds. Now, the platform that I personally use and recommend is Interactive Brokers. Now, this is a US platform that allows UAE tax residents to invest with it. It's a full professional trading platform. It has a mobile app as well as a desktop application. And you can do all of the advanced stuff like margin, you get access to penny stocks. There's so many different features and products you can purchase. Personally, I just go and buy normal ETFs or buy normal stocks, but you can do all the advanced stuff that you want. Now, that said, if you are interested in using this platform, I actually have a referral link, which I'll leave in the description. This can give you a 1% deposit match up to 100,000 US dollars, which means you can get up to $1,000 in free stock. Personally, I use this. One of my friends gave me his referral code, and I believe it gives me $200 if you use it, and you go all the way up to the $100,000 deposited. But for you, it's just $1,000 in free stock. You can sell it, you can withdraw it, no catch. It's actually quite a good kind of referral that they have. Regardless, that's Interactive Brokers, but now let's talk about the US withholdings tax. So like I said, you're going to be paying a 30% tax on any dividends received from a US company as a UAE tax resident. So really what you should be doing is avoiding purchasing any kind of funds or stocks which are domiciled in the US. What you want to do instead is purchase Ireland domiciled funds. Now, a lot of times these are just a straight mirror of the ETF that you would have in the US. For example, we can look at the S&P 500. Obviously, the main ETFs for that are domiciled in the United States. However, in Ireland, we have the exact same version of the S&P 500. It's just a mirror. It's under a different ticker. I'm actually going to pull it up and show it to you on my phone. And this now will give you a 15% withholdings tax, not 30%, because of how the tax works in Ireland. Now, you're also going to be avoiding estate taxes and a lot of other rules and regulations that are in the United States when you buy Irish domiciled ETFs, funds, whatever it ends up being. Now, I'm quickly going to show you through Interactive Brokers how you check where it's domiciled, and I'll show you the S&P 500 ETF so you can see what it looks like. All right, so I just pulled up my Interactive Brokers app on my phone here, and we're looking at the fund, which is the CSPX, which is hosted on the London Stock Exchange. Now, this is iShares Core S&P 500, and the way that you know that this is domiciled in Ireland is by going here to the fund profile. Now, when you click on the fund profile, once it decides to load, you'll be able to see where the fund is domiciled. You can see here that it's domiciled in Ireland, and then it will show you all of the various holdings and give you all of these different scores. Now, you can do all kinds of research on these funds, but typically big companies like Vanguard are going to have very similar to funds to what you would want to buy in the US, just domiciled in Ireland. Let me show you another one here that is a kind of US version domiciled in Ireland. So here's another one we can look at. This is VWRA, and this is the Vanguard All World Index one. This is just tracking the largest and mid-sized companies in the world, so more of an international fund. And you can see here that it's domiciled in Ireland. There are a bunch of other funds like this, a lot of them held by Vanguard. And the only thing I want you to know about these types of funds is that typically they will have lower trading volume, and they can sometimes be in different denominations or different currencies. So in this case, this one is on the London Stock Exchange as well, but there are some that are on other stock exchanges and that are in different currencies. So maybe not US dollar, maybe they're in the euro, or they're in something like British pounds. So it just does require a little bit more research. You need to be a bit more diligent. Again, just make sure you're buying Irish domiciled ones and avoiding the US ones unless you want to pay that US withholdings tax. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is give you a quick list of tips and mistakes that you'll want to avoid that will save you a lot of money when you're originally getting set up in the UAE. Now, the first thing you want to make sure you do is utilize your WEO account whenever you are transferring or wiring US dollars. You do not want to wire US dollars or any other currency for that matter to something like an Emirates MBD account because it will get converted at the bank rate, which is significantly worse than the PEG. Whereas with WEO, what you can do is you can take US dollars and you can wire it to your US dollar WEO account. When you do that, you can then transfer that in the WEO application to dirhams and get it at the PEG. This is significantly better than sending a wire in something like dirhams, because if you do that, then you're going to have to pay the currency conversion rate from your local bank, which I guarantee you will be horrible. For my bank in Canada, for example, there was a 9.5% foreign transaction fee, and you can imagine doing large transfers like hundreds of thousands of dollars that can cost me 50 grand, 60 grand, 70 grand to transfer money just in the foreign exchange. Now, the next thing I encourage you to do is to always do some test transactions and small transfers when you're just starting out with a new bank. You don't want to open your WEO account and then immediately wire 500k dirhams or send huge amounts to the account. If you do that, you can get flagged and you can have your account restricted or your transfers blocked. Now, sure, you'll be able to get the money back, obviously, but it can be a huge pain. And from what I've heard from a lot of people in the UAE, they'll typically do smaller transfers, maybe like 5 or 6 50k transfers before they go and do a larger one to kind of warm up the account. I know, sounds a little bit stupid, but I would recommend doing smaller transfers, obviously testing things out first, making sure the money is received, and then you can do those larger transfers, which is exactly what I did. Also, if you're going to be doing any local transfers, if you're transferring large amounts, this can take 1 or 2 days to be cleared by the central bank. If you need money immediately, what you can do instead is you can do a few smaller transfers. So for example, if you're going from your Emirates MBD account to your WEO account, you can transfer, say, 25,000 dirhams. And if you transfer 25,000 dirhams, it'll be credited instantly, like literally in a few seconds. Whereas if you do 30,000 dirhams, it might take a day because you're over that 25k threshold. So for me, if I want to transfer 100k dirhams, I just do 4 25k transfers. There's no fee, it's a free transfer, and that means that I get the money instantly rather than having to wait a full day or 2 days. And my last tip for you is for any of you that don't come from the United States, and that is to use a different platform when you're actually transferring money and you need foreign exchange. Now, in my case, I come from Canada. I'm holding Canadian dollars. Now, sure, I can convert my Canadian dollars to US dollars at my bank rate, but it's still a very, very high fee, especially when you're doing really large transfers. So instead, what I did to actually wire all of my money from Canada to the UAE is I used Wise. Now, Wise is kind of a transparent platform where it tells you what the fee is actually going to be, and it's significantly less than if you were paying the bank fee. So what I did is I wired money to Wise, and then I paid about a 0.5% fee to send the money from Wise to my AED account. So it transferred Canadian dollars directly to dirhams, so I avoided having to transfer to US dollars first, pay the fee on that, then transfer the US dollars to the bank. No matter how you do this, you are going to pay some kind of fee, but personally, I found that Wise was the cheapest option. It worked quite well, and I transferred over 600,000 Canadian dollars, and it was completely fine. So there you go. That wraps up my guide on all the things you need to know about banking and investing in Dubai or the UAE. If you want some more information on the UAE, then check out this video right here.